Hey guys, Bix Weir. It's a new series for Patreon and private road members. Trigger points, kind of snapshots of what we got firing off as we speak. That leans to the destruction of the old system and an invention of the new system. Clearly, there's a lot of chaos going around, and in the midst of it, we have this CFTC commission meeting. I haven't watched a meeting in a long time. They're very boring. This one is to water down the Volcker rule, meaning JP Morgan is free to trade all the derivatives they want now. If you're interested in checking this out, go to the CFTC website. There's a new chairman, always a new chairman. Again, CFTC and the SEC run cover for the banking cabal, for the system to keep functioning the way it is. It cannot function without the cover of the regulators. So there we have it. And some are just too stupid to understand. This guy looks like a complete tool, the new chairman, Tarbert, but hey, what's new, right? The only decent chairman they had was Bart Chilton, and look what happened to him. Anyway, but not all the chairmen agree with this watering down of the Volcker rule. Here is a dissenting statement from a Commissioner Rostin Beanham. I respectfully dissent as to the Commission's decision to approve revisions of the Volcker rule. In June 2018, when I voted against the proposed rule, I expressed my biggest concern that was our action would encourage a return to the risky activities that led to the financial crisis and perhaps further consolidate trading activity into a few institutions. My concern last June was that we were weakening the Volcker rule around the edges, and I raised specific issues regarding unnecessary complexity, lack of clarity, and a flawed process that chilled dissent. Unfortunately, today's rule does not do anything to assuage the concerns. To make matters worse, while the proposal merely threatened to kill Volcker through 1,000 cuts, the final rule goes for the throat. It significantly weakens the prohibition on proprietary trading, JP Morgan, by narrowing the scope of financial instruments subject to the Volcker rule. What remains is so watered down that it leaves one questioning whether it should be called the Volcker rule at all. To that point, Paul Volcker himself recently sent a letter to the chairman of the Federal Reserve criticizing the rule and stating that the rule amplifies risk in the financial system, increases moral hazard, and erodes protections against conflicts of interest that are so glaringly on display during the last crisis. And check out the end of this statement. The most troubling aspect of today's rule, though, is something new. The final rule includes changes to the definition of, quote, trading account that will significantly reduce the scope of the financial instruments subject to the Volcker rule's prohibition on proprietary trading. This change is described in the preamble to the final rule as avoiding having the trading account definition, quote, inappropriately scope in certain financial instruments almost as if they were included in the proposal scope by mistake. There are no mistakes, Mike, especially when lawyers are writing commodity law. However, these financial instruments were within the scope of the 2013 rule, and they were within the scope of the proposal. Removing them now limits the scope of the Volcker rule so significantly that it no longer will provide meaningful constraints on speculative proprietary trading by the banks. As such, I cannot. Basically, they just threw the Volcker rule out the window for the big banks. Good, bad, or indifferent? I think it's great. Truthfully, that means they're going to implode even faster, if you ask me. I don't want to fix the old system. I want to destroy the old system. So the CFTC, this woman, yeah, you're right. You're right. It destroys the Volcker rule. But what do you want? Do you want to fix the old system so we keep bouncing along for the next 100 years in this criminal system? Or do you want to destroy it? If you destroy it, you destroy the Volcker rule, gives the banks enough rope to hang themselves. They're doing that as we speak. It's my take. Speaking of that, people were asking me, okay, I got your email this morning about all the derivatives can be triggered by these oil problems. When is the date? Give me a date. I don't know. Nobody knows. But we have time frames. For example, this current contract that's trading, the delivery date is September 23rd. About a week away, a little over a week away. There's a date for you, September 23rd. What does that mean? It could trigger derivatives. How long does it take for derivatives to settle? About 3 weeks to a month. Puts us in mid-October for the chaos. I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than that. I think the chaos is already happening behind the scenes and probably has been happening all year. Just got worse and worse and worse, especially worse with the attack on the Saudi facility, and that's not going to be the last one. Yes, people are looking at the oil price. Well, it's not going crazy. Gold and silver are actually going down. Of course, they're all rigged. They're all rigged. But this is a process. The process is get the bad guys shorter than they usually are. Shorter and shorter and shorter. Get them into a point where they're in so much trouble that they get destroyed. So yes, they're going to keep rigging the prices until they can't. And when they can't, poof, the system is gone. But a lot happening behind the scenes. And what did I say at the beginning of the year? Watch for December. Here we have it. News as of today. 3 JP Morgan traders charged with massive gold market manipulation fraud and silver, by the way. Many readers wrote us off as conspiracy theorists when we reported on signs of manipulation in the precious metals market. But as it turns out, trading desks at some of the world's largest banks were deeply involved in what the Justice Department described as a massive multi-year scheme to manipulate the markets for precious metals, futures contracts, and defraud market participants. In an indictment unsealed on Monday morning, the DOJ charged Michael Nowak, a JP Morgan veteran and former head of precious metals trading desk, and Greg Smith, another trader on JPM's metal desk, in the probe. Both men were put on leave over the summer as the DOJ investigation neared its conclusion, and Nowak has previously named in a civil lawsuit brought by the CFTC. A third named in the indictment, Christopher Jordan, traded precious metals at JPM until he left in December 2009. He later traded metals at 2 other banks, Credit Suisse and First New York. There's 2 more banks that are going down in the conspiracy. In a press release accompanying the indictment, Assistant Attorney General accused all 3 men of scheming to manipulate the precious metals market while potentially harming the bank's clients. The defendants and others allegedly engaged in a massive multi-year scheme to manipulate the market for precious metals, futures contracts, and defraud participants. These charges should leave no doubt that the department is committed to prosecuting those who undermine the investing public's trust in the integrity of our commodity markets. Bullshit. That is complete bullshit. Why is JP Morgan still allowed to even participate in this market? Nonetheless, not notwithstanding the end of the Volcker rule. That is bullshit. Insane. William Sweeney, Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's New York field office, added that this manipulation likely impacted, quote, correlated markets and the clients of the bank they represented. Insane. And check out, this is what they said. And this is a quote from the people who pled guilty and turning in their bosses. While at JP Morgan, I was instructed by supervisors and more senior traders to trade in a certain fashion, namely to place orders that I intended to cancel before execution. I was instructed that if a client wished to sell futures contracts or buy, I should simultaneously place both bids and offers with the intent of canceling the bids prior to the execution. We created market activity which artificially drove the sale price up and down. You notice they're not talking about down. Very interesting. And induced other market participants to purchase at an inflated price. They do both, up and down. This is complete fraud. This is happening still. It's amazing. They're trying to pretend, we just drove the prices up. That's bullshit. They rig it up and they rig it down. But that's part of what the U.S. is since 1933, the invention of the Exchange Stabilization Fund. That was their job, to rig the gold and silver markets. Anyway, interesting that's coming out right now. You guys want more information on Private Road. There was a little confusion this morning. One of the customers was like, what happened to all the Friday road trips? The road trips are the timeline updates for the past 5 or 6 weeks. So that's what's going on with that. And I usually post the road trip first on the private road, and then the next week we'll go to Patreon. So just to be clear on that, that's what's going on. if you guys want all the timeline and all the private road Friday road trips, and of course with the private road you get the coins and you get the all the history of all the documentation that it is so much on the road to Roota. Over 3,000 articles, videos all over the place. If it's kind of confusing, go to the private road, do a search, or go to the public road, do a search for whatever topic you're looking for. It's all there. And in the archives, that's for the all the private road stuff is for the private road members, and they get the coin and the cryptos. So that's where we are right now on the road to Roota. This is just a quick update, and remember, CFTC just dropped the Volcker rule for the banks. What does that do? It leaves it wide open for massive derivative creation and thus massive destruction. So we will see. Keep your fingers crossed. I don't know for what, but just cross them. This is Bix. I'll talk to you later.